So what are some of like the biggest challenges that you see men are dealing with that coaching is the solution for them?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that guys are completely distracted from themselves.
What does that mean?
Well, looking back at, say, like our grandparents,
Okay.
right? They were very much absorbed into what they were doing for themselves or their family. And like, that was it.
Okay.
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 So I think what's happened is that their part of their consciousness has been brought out beyond themselves in the
Okay.
sense of like with social media. So, and having other identities in other places. And that, it could be, online sources, it'd be video games, social media, all across the board. And then they become very susceptible to criticism, likes, dislikes, trolls, all sorts of things. And they create like a bridge between who they are and their representative online.
Really?
And then so it starts affecting them emotionally, and along with, all the other social stuff that's going on out there, like
so you feel like,
and so on.
So you feel like social media is diluting men's understanding of themselves?
Yeah, it's diluting masculinity for sure.
Social media by itself.
Yeah.
But social media is controlled by the culture of people that exist within it. So what is it?
Mm.
So is there an issue with social media or people in general
It's a good question.
weaponizing social media for the things that people are going to do anyway?
Yeah. No, it's a good question, because it's like saying like, well, is alcohol the culprit of people developing alcoholism? And it's no, not really. It's the relationship to it.
Okay.
That is the problem.
Okay.
Right? Social media is just digital information. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have a good or a badness to it.
Correct.
So it's really the association that men are developing with the apps.
Okay.
And how they're linking that to their own identities.
Okay.
And that is deeply affecting how these guys are moving out here.
So like, give me an example, like a guy today, right? What's a typical no-no that guys are doing today that are like, again with this? Like, what is it?
Okay. So a good example would be men looking at the behavior of women too much online, right?
What do you mean?
Researching, going on YouTube, looking into like female nature and things like that to try to figure them out. And then it turns them sometimes into like highly critical people. And we've heard them in some of these clubhouse rooms where they're just like berating women on the behavior, like trying to like put them in corners and stuff like that. And it's just like, dude, that's putting you in like really, really unattractive energy. Like,
yeah.
Like no woman's going to want to get with you.
It's almost like they want to like, sometimes I see, or I hear about conversations, or I'm part of conversations where I hear guys talking to women or about women as if they want to spend more time punishing women for things that they don't understand themselves, or they don't fully understand, the nature of just humanity as a whole. So because they don't understand it, they don't have the right tools in place. They just come from a very angry place, and they start just like berating women about saying, "Oh, women suck." Women. And women do it too. I see that, but in the conversation about men, I just feel like they're developing a very toxic understanding of like the person that they ultimately really want to pursue.
Right.
So what's the disconnect? Like, what's keeping them from just, shutting the hell up and like getting to the basics of like, okay, this is what I want out of life. This is what I want in a partner. What's keeping them from getting to that place?
Focusing too much on women. Right?
Okay.
It really is.
Okay.
Like, because let's say like young guys saying like in their 20s.
Okay.
Like they should just be really focusing on developing who they are.
Okay.
Right. And developing the score that they stand on, and trying to create their own chessboard.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And figure themselves out for their life moving forward. And because those moves, life changes, things come up, but those things that you make for yourself really dictate a lot of things moving forward.
Okay.
And if you're just taking that time, that those pivotal years, focusing on women and trying to understand them and trying to chase them and try to get validation from them, that's wasted energy. That's wasted time.
Do you feel like that's different from what, like, you feel like that's a growing problem, or is that something that always existed?
I mean, it's part of human nature for sure, right? Like men want to sleep with women, right?
Really? I didn't know that. That's a new concept for me. Yeah. I didn't know that. I just woke up to that reality.
I've got like a whole paper on it. You know what I mean?
So, all right, send me the pamphlet.
Right. But yeah, it's a PowerPoint too. So yes, but because of the way culture has influenced the minds of men, it's turns that up.
Okay.
Right? It's turned that energy way up. And it has to do with having high access to porn, like really easy access to porn. So sex is like on the mind constantly.
Yeah.
Right. And then having access to women who are like scantily flaunting themselves online, right? You go through YouTube, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. It's like everywhere. You're getting tons of subtle signs.
Overly simulated.
Right. So it's going to be on the mind all the time. Not to mention, they're not getting any kind of play. Right?
What do you mean?
I remember reading that this generation of men has the largest number of virgins of any generation.
Stop.
In the United States.
Wait. When you say largest number of virgins,
male virgins,
but is that like marginally more or like exponentially?
Oh, I don't know. It was just an article that I was reading about it, so I'd have to look into it more. But I do remember reading that.
Now, is that by choice or is that like circumstantial? I don't know. I don't know.
Are these dudes out here being like, I'm going to be celibate?
Yeah, but okay. Are we talking about like men who are just distracted with other things? Because think about what you just said. You said men spend too much time thinking about women. They should be focusing on themselves.
Yeah.
That could potentially lead to a lot of virgin men too. No?
Right. But see, here's the thing. Like, they're also preoccupied with getting it. It's a weird mess.
Okay.
Like they should be just focusing on themselves. And when you do that, it creates your own gravitational pull.
Okay.
You know? And
okay.
people, and like, you know, women who want to mess with you, they're going to mess with you. Right.
Okay.
So it's like, when you're doing that, you create your own gravitational field, and that draws people in. I mean, you know, just like when you're focusing on yourself, you create a greater energy about yourself, especially when it comes to, you know, your health, you know, your physical strength, your mental strength, your finances, your hobbies, like that, just your home, like all these things attract.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But a lot of guys aren't doing that, right? They're just kind of doing enough to get by. And they spend tons of time online.
So right now you keep going back to online. So I always felt like prior to online or just outside of online, there's other like influences that are impacting men's desire to like be, you know, valuable to themselves or to people in general that might impact their confidence, that might impact, you know, the perception of themselves as well as the actual maneuvers that they're making in the realm of their love life, their career, and so on and so forth. Like aside from social media, like are there any like cultural things that are like?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I would say a large one would be the beginnings of the divorce epidemic.
Is it an epidemic?
Yeah, I mean, you could call it an epidemic, but it was a surge in divorce. I think it was starting in the early 80s.
Okay,
and then so from that point, you're getting just split families, and then the result is that young men are not having access to a father figure.
Got it.
Right. Because typically when judges do the ruling, typically the children go with the mother.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Unless they have like split custody or whatever. But the point is even if they have like shared custody, the father's not there as a present figure day in and day out.
So you're saying the epidemic, I got to look at the stats of like what divorce rates were like from the 80s until now. I got to look that up. But you're saying the rising split of family units.
Yes.
Which typically removes fathers from the home the way that
Correct.
It's set up, especially if mothers are considered the caretakers. You're saying that the removal of the father from the home, which is not like an unknown statistic for a lot of people, but you're saying that alone creates a dynamic amongst men of a growing population of men that are growing up without fathers, examples of like men in general. So the decline of actual like manhood, like genuine, credible men.
Yeah. Well, it's also, it's two-sided, right? It's a double-edged sword. So So on one side is the loss of having a father figure to model after.
Okay.
And on the other side is that you're now being raised with the mother's psychology and only her psychology. And a lot of times that turns into wanting to prove themselves to the mother, right? Trying to get her love, trying to get her appreciation, trying to get her validation. You see where this is going?
Got it.
And typically you get what's called, Dr. Robert Glover wrote a great book on this called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And basically you develop nice guy syndrome.
So because a lot of like,
otherwise known as simping in today's lingo for you young guys out there.
Okay, simping, right? So basically what you're saying is like guys who grew up with mostly their mother are now prone to want validation from their mother.
Correct.
When they were growing up, and that translated to wanting validation from women as a whole.
Yes.
I never really looked at it like that. I always thought like, okay, because men are growing up with their mothers, they're a little bit softer, they're having more of a feminine influence, and that's like deteriorating a lot of their masculinity. But
that's there too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the part you just said is kind of unique in my mind, where you're considering that if they're constantly looking for validation from their mom, and that was the person that was the predominant caregiver and caretaker and so on, then they're accustomed to trying to get validation from a woman. That's their wiring now.
And looking for that person, when they're out there dating, they're looking for someone who can replace that archetype in their mind, right? So they're looking for someone to take care of them, right? And the women out here like, I don't want to take care of you.
Right.
Like, you should be able to take care of yourself.
And me.
Right.
At the same time.
And me, depending on like how modern they are.
Yeah.
But even still, modern women, they want a man who can take care of himself and doing his own business, and they can like be the power couple or whatever. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, okay, so basically the divorce epidemic, right? And
we could just call it the rise in divorce.
The rise and I like the term epidemic. It seems more like clinical and like, oh shit,
scary.
You know what I mean? Like the moment I heard that, the only thing that came to my mind was
the epidemic.
The epidemic of divorce.